Hello.
Hiya.
What's up, Mr. McFadden?
Not a whole heck of a lot.
All right, now that we can finally talk, I am so confused. Like, I'm still confused. Like,
Confused about what?
I thought my DBQ last time was good, but I guess it wasn't.
No, it was. What did you get?
Oh,
7 or
it
6?
was? I don't I don't know. You gave me advice. It was like, um, let me go to it real quick. Like you gave me advice on it.
Yeah.
It
No,
was
I
like
remember
normally
that.
something.
Yeah, you got a 7.
That's good. Well,
Yeah, you're aiming for at least 8.
yo, let's go.
Yeah, and
I thought I did
no, no,
bad.
no, no. You did much better. The couple of points that you missed were a couple of stylistic things that if you just do a couple of minor alterations would have been fine. Or would have given you that last point. But yeah, we're aiming for 8. 10 is the most that you can get, but the complexity point, don't waste your time trying to get the complexity point. It's just going to take too long. And then the using 4 documents only gets you one more point, and it takes a lot of extra time to do the it says, I say, and so for a third and fourth document. So it's just not worth it to do that if you can focus on the contextualization of the thesis using 2 documents, finding 2 pieces of outside information, and FIA, that's 8 points. That's I would assume pretty good. So that's why we're
Yeah,
saying 8 is great. So aim for 8. And this last time you got 7, and I don't remember what you missed points on, but it was
because I didn't try for the complexity because it was
that's
like those are
perfectly fine because like I said, it's hard to get and it's a waste of time in all honesty.
but I did that in like 30 minutes because I knew I was not gonna do any better. I was a little bit scared on that, so I was just
Yeah,
tried to do 30
so
minutes.
I'm looking at the tally sheet. You got the thesis, you got the contextualization, you use 2 documents. The thing is you need to directly tie your documents back to the thesis to support your argument. I didn't see that. But then you had 2 pieces of outside information and you feed the 2 documents that you used. So yeah, that was the point that you
Oh,
missed from the 8 that we're aiming for.
oh, so with the I say it say that thing. So you said specifically to not use those words.
Right.
What words should I exactly use for that?
It's going to be different for every single document. The way that you put it in the last one, um,
Because like I try so hard to not use it. Like,
believe me, I know. And if you take a look at your last DBQ, there's 2 things that you could include that will kind of bind the stuff a little bit closer together. You have the 2 body paragraphs, and you just basically start off by talking about document 2. Well, you should start off by saying that the growth in the opposition to slavery was because of
why?
a change in a moral argument. Okay, so now I can say, oh, he's going to talk about the moral,
I think it's
the
black. No,
changing morals on slavery. And then document 2 is making a decision about the abolition of slavery in Massachusetts. It shows how slaves were used and being treated like horses and cattle. Okay,
yo,
that would be a moral argument to be able to say that people should not be treated like horse and cattle. So therefore, Massachusetts outlawed slavery, right?
oh
So
my god, yo, no way.
what?
Hello,
Yeah.
can you hear me?
What's the problem?
No, I just lagged off. Like,
Yeah, I'm
hello?
still here.
All right, all right. Yeah, because like I don't hear any sound or anything. Like my Wi-Fi just completely shut off out of nowhere, and I don't know what's going on.
I still have a picture and I'm still getting sound.
All right, I'm gonna try to leave and come back,
Okay.
and let's see if that fixes it.
Okay.
All right.
Is this what it's like behind your eyelids?
What happened?
Huh?
You want to see my dog?
Do I have a choice?
Well, I'm gonna show him regardless.
That's what I'm saying.
It's a
Hello, can
great,
you hear me?
You still there?
it's a Great Dane.
Holy crap. That's a big dog.
Yep,
You,
he's
I
not
can
even.
hear you, Elijah.
I don't even think he's a year yet, but how big he is.
Oh, all right, cool, cool, cool.
Okay, so
Y'all see video? I'm so tired. There we go.
again, the thing that you're missing from your last DBQ, Elijah, is that you needed to explain how that document shows the growth and the change of the attitudes of slavery. It was okay treating them like horses and cattle before. Now we have a change, and now it's no longer okay, and so they outlaw slavery in Massachusetts because they succumbed to the moral argument that people shouldn't be treated like horses and cattle. That was the missing step that you needed to include.
Oh, all right.
So
Okay.
when we say the and so, that's what I'm talking about. The and so they shouldn't be treated like horses and cattle. So Massachusetts used the moral argument to outlaw slavery or to go against slavery. That's
All right,
that's what
cool,
was
cool.
needed. But the use of the documents gets you a point. Tying it directly to your thesis and telling me this is what shows what it is, that's the other half. That gives you another point.
All right, that's all right. I think I got that.
Okay.
That's cool. Was that the only thing that I need to work on?
Um, of the 8 points that we're aiming for, yeah, that was the one that you didn't get last time. You just need to make sure that you've got a contextualization, the thesis, 2 documents, support your documents, outside information, FIA. Those are the 8 points that we're looking for. As long as you've got those 8 things,
So how?
that's what we're trying for.
All right. So how was my contextualization? Was that bad? Was it okay?
Well, it earned you the point.
So it was. It wasn't the best,
No,
but
it
it's
wasn't.
cool.
And it doesn't have to be. That's the entire point. It doesn't have to be the best sentence I've ever read to get the point. It has to give your essay context. And you talk about before slavery being abolished, it was a common thing. Oh, okay. Your contextualization was really, really specific, and it doesn't need to be quite that specific. You could make the general statement prior to the growth of the abolition of slavery. Slavery was a common thing throughout the English colonies. Slavery was legal from Maine to Georgia. However, and then you go into your thesis statement. So yeah, your contextualization was perfectly fine. It got you a point.
Hey, hold up, wait. Contextualization. Wait, it was that easy? It's like, wait a minute, yo.
Mm-hmm.
I thought like a contextualization was like a long.
No.
Oh, yo, that's crazy.
No, it needs to give your essay context. So if it's a sentence or 2, that's fine. That's all it really takes. It doesn't need to be, paragraphs. It just needs to explain what life was like before and then how did things change because of the prompt.
All right, cool. So what about for this week's DBQ? Do you know like which crash course would be like the best to really focus on?
Off the top of my head, I don't know, but it's talking about the era of good feelings and national identity. So we're talking about the time period after the War of 1812 and about the time of Jackson. So that time period where the United States only had one political party, where the United States felt pretty good about beating the British, where things were starting to look up. The economy was growing. There were lots of things going on. Off the top of my head, I don't know which crash course would go great with that. And
plus, the crash course questions were so like it was really difficult to really like get the answers to them. Like you have to listen to every single like word that he says to get the answer to that.
Yeah.
And it was really difficult. It was hard.
And like I said, if that's not helpful to you, then that's why I'm not collecting that to grade, because if that's not helpful to you, why would I force you to do that? You know what I mean? Because if let's say you don't do really well with the dry textbook, okay, don't read it. I don't care. But you have to know these things. So you have to find something that works for you. And a couple of years ago, I had to come to the realization of not all of these things work for everybody, and I have to be able to be a little bit more flexible so that you can get what you need, and I don't have to sit there and sift through a bunch of plagiarized and copied work that people are just, I don't care about this because I don't like the way that this is put. Okay, fine. Get it somewhere else. I don't care. That's why I only am looking at these end of the week DBQ things, and I've been doing that since the beginning of the year, because I don't want you to have to sit down and go, I don't want to read this textbook. I'd rather just get it from these sources that I found or this video or whatever. I don't care how you get it. Get it the way it works for you. Looking at the assignments themselves, if the crash course videos, honestly, 12 and 13 are probably going to be your best bets. That's the market revolution and slavery. Another place to be able to get information from is going to be those the individual era videos. I can't see the individual names because they're shortened, but basically the antebellum era, reform movements, technology during the market revolution, the Missouri Compromise. Those are all going to be things that would be probably very helpful for you for this DBQ. But remember, you really only need 2 pieces of outside information, and use those pieces of outside information to support your thesis.
Yeah, but isn't it?
You don't have to memorize these minuscule little bits of American history. Do the big, easy ones.
Yeah, because like, isn't it good to have like multiple outside information? Because like, what if you don't get that one correct thing right? Like,
True. However, I mean, how many pieces of outside information are you thinking you're going to put in there? 7, 8, 12? I mean, at some point it becomes overkill because you need 2 to get 2 points. After that, it just becomes superfluous. It becomes extra. And you don't need to sit there and write out this 45-page essay because you don't have that kind of time.
All right. So do you know like anything to like do if you finish early? Because I'll finish early.
I would go back and look at the individual points. Do you think you have contextualization? Do you think you have a thesis? Do you, did you actually do those things? And if you didn't, put them in. Because if you finished in a half an hour and you look back and you go, I don't think I tied this to my thesis, add it in really quick. because then you can make sure that you're getting those points. You don't want to sit there and go, well, I have 15 minutes left and I think this is pretty good. No, double check it. That's why I'm not saying go and get all 10 points, aim for 8. Because then you will have that extra time to ensure that you get those 8 points and you're not screwing yourself by trying to get 10 and only getting 5.
So the 7 points was a B, right?
Something like that. I haven't figured out what the scale is going to be, but probably an 85 or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I need this grade to go up. Like this,
Yeah.
It's like the only class that's just low.
Yeah. Believe me, I hear this every single year, and every single year I have to walk people off of ledges, and it is what it is. And so what I'm going to suggest is just keep doing the best that you can with these weekly DBQs that we're going to have. And then once the AP test happens in May, the day of the AP test, after everyone's done and turned it in, we're going to have a big, I don't want to say a gathering online, but we're going to start a project which is designed to be fun and interesting for everyone to do and raise their grades. So that'll happen once that happens, but you have to do it. Last year, second semester, of the 3 AP classes that I had one person fail. And that was because she just didn't do the assignment, the last project. And it was like, really, you just have to do the project. So when this comes to be, do the project, okay?
So did they pass it with a D or like with a C? Because passing,
I don't remember off the top of my head. All I remember is there was 1 F. And if she had done the project, she probably would have squeaked by with a very low D, but I don't know. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Oh, she had like
it was low.
Grade then.
Oh, it was low. Yeah. No, she didn't do anything all year long, and she blew this last assignment off, and it was like, this was your last chance, and you blew it. Good job.
All right, so I'm just gonna keep trying to work on the DBQs. Because like I tried watching the crash courses, and I tried like answering the questions.
Mm-hmm.
I like on what number 10, I think that's what it is, like the 10th crash course. Oh my god, that was like I was trying to like answer the questions while watching the video. It was so difficult.
Yeah,
I think it was Age of Jackson, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, the crash course videos are great because they go over things very, very quickly, and it's just basically a content dump. But they're not the only way of getting it. And if you have a better way or a different way or whatever, use that. I don't care. I don't care how you get the information. I do care that you understand how to write a DBQ and how to make an argument. That's what is important for this class and, everything else.
Yeah, because I understand the DBQ. Definitely now, I really do understand it.
Yeah.
I'm just not understanding the question. Like, I don't know what evidence and everything to put up in the question.
Okay, well, take a look at the era of good feelings DBQ. Okay, so we're evaluating the extent of changes in the perception of national identity during the era of good feelings. So what do I mean by that? Well, I mean, how did we come together as Americans during this time period? Okay, so if you're thinking about it in that kind of a perspective, how did the nation come together during this time? Well, we stopped fighting with each other politically, and the one opposition party, the Federalists, just disappear because nobody wants to be a Federalist anymore. So that kind of brings everybody together.
Wait, Mr. McFadden.
Yeah.
Is this during the whole like the steamboats and the trains?
Yes.
oh, I got this down packed. Hold up, this is the only thing that I remember fully, like clearly. I remember all the canals and every. Oh my!
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
that's going to be another thing that's going to bring the country together. Those infrastructure projects that allow us to move about and communicate faster, those are going to be things that are going to also add to that. So that's going to be another part of your argument. Yes.
I'm so happy because like the only thing that I cannot use, that I know for a fact, is I think it's the road of 1811, something like that. Like I can't use that, but everything else I could use. So like I could use steamboats and blah blah blah. I could use that, right?
Well, yeah, but remember, you have to use those in context with how it helps to bring the nation together. So, what your argument is going to decide how you're going to use those terms. So, yeah, you can use steamboats, but how did steamboats bring people together? How did steamboats make Americans Americans?
Wait,
How did it form a national identity?
do I say it or no?
Yeah.
Oh, because for one, it helped with the industries and all that. Like like when it start getting built and stuff. So like it'll help bring jobs and all that for everybody.
Okay. So how does that build national identity?
We became known as like being known for like transporting goods and all that. But the canals,
okay,
which also involve the steamboat stuff.
See, like, you're on the right track. Okay, you're on the right track because you're saying we did this. We had, steamboats and canals. Great. That's now evidence. Okay. Then you said that it helped to build our industrialism. Okay. That would be, I say, okay, you said something about the evidence. Now bring it back to the thesis. How does industrialism tie us together?
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. See, this is where I get puzzled at. This is
and this is the tough part. This is the difficult part, and that's the point that you missed on the last essay. Okay, that eighth point was because it didn't come back to the thesis. So if your thesis is that Americans came together, okay, what are some ways that we came together? Well, there was a sense of national pride after the War of 1812. There was unifying the economy of the country. Okay, that's where you can talk about industrialization. Okay, and we have let's see, we got political, social, the reform movements. Okay, you could talk about reforming the country became a priority. That would be an example of us coming together, right? Because the abolitionist movement, the temperance movement, all those movements unified people. People kind of came together around those ideas. So now you've got a political reason, okay, sense of national pride, right?
Yeah.
We have an economic reason, building industrialism, and we have a social reason. Okay, now you've got your three reasons. You said you had steamboats and canals that were bringing people together. Okay, evidence. Yeah. You should be more specific with your evidence, but evidence starting off. Okay, and then you said that those steamboats and canals led to larger amounts of industrialization. So how does industrialization lead us to unity? How does it bring us together?
And that's gonna be the hard thing to explain on it. Yeah. I'm gonna have to think about that for a cool minute, because
that's perfectly fine. Go ahead. But that is the it says, I say, and so. Tell me about something. You say something about that something you told me about.
Yeah.
Explain how that relates to your argument.
So basically do that with with most of the documents.
At least two. Yes. At least two documents and 2 pieces of outside information via those 2 things, and that's 6 points. Honestly, this is, in my opinion, the easiest AP test that has been given in ever.
Wait, the AP test is 1 DBQ?
One 5-document DBQ worth 10 points. That's it. No multiple choice, no short answer, no long answer. 1 DBQ, 5 documents, 45 minutes, go.
Okay, now my self-esteem like just boosted so much now. Because like how you guys told us in the beginning of the year, it was SAQs and LEQs and DBQs. Now only one thing to do. Oh yeah. Oh, I got this down pat.
Yeah. It's honestly, if the one challenging part to this is going to be, you have no idea what they're going to pull from. It could be anything from basically the Revolutionary War to World War II. It could be anything in that time period. Anything. That's going to be the challenge, is figuring out and knowing all of the stuff that you might need to know between those 2 time periods.
Ooh, so what if it was on the Market Revolution?
Then
I'll be so happy.
I'd be happy too, because we did a review one on it. But I don't know what it's going to be on. If I knew, don't you think I would have told you by now, and we'd be studying that backwards and forwards? Yeah. I don't know what it's going to be. I wish I did.
I'm so glad now. Okay, all right, got that. Yeah, I think that's all I need help with. The NSO is the only thing that really is confusing to me.
And like I said, of the 8 points that I'm asking you to try to get, those are going to be the hard points, but they're still way easier than the complexity. Because
all right, so you said to do the so like that thing, right, with 2 documents. So like if you do it with 4, is that like another point, right?
That would be another point. Yeah, you do 2 more documents on top of the first 2. So for 4 documents total, it says I say and so gets you a 9th point instead of just 8.
Oh, and then so it'll be 7 points with just the 2 evidence, the I said so with the it was another thing that you said. Oh, and with the FIA.
Okay, so the points go complexity, thesis.
Yeah.
Using 2 documents, to support your thesis, using a piece of outside information, using another piece of outside information, FIA-ing those 2 documents, and then FIA-ing a second document. That's 8 points. Okay. The 9th and 10th points are using 4 documents and supporting your argument with 4 documents and the complexity. That's all 10 points. I'm looking for 8 points because I think that's reasonable to get, and I think completely and totally doable.
So what if you do 3 documents? Like, okay, like
then you only get 8 points. Yeah, it doesn't count.
Because like you do 4 documents like all together, right? But like you missed the INSO for one of the documents, so like you wouldn't get the extra point. Yep. So that's why you always do 5. That's why I always recommend do 5. Like, because let's say you get 1 wrong, you also have those 4 to back up on.
I'm not going to stop you from trying to get 9 points. Believe me, I am not going to stop you from doing that. However, what I'm saying, and Mr. Tasneri and I are arguing, is it worth the extra time that it would take to do 3 more documents to get 1 more point?
Well, if you finish early, it
True.
is.
But again, you got to make sure that you're doing all of those things. So that's the argument that we came up with, is 8 is great. Try to get 8 points.
And 9 points is like 115 points, or like
I don't know
how much is 9?
That is not on the radar, so I'm not worried about it.
I'm gonna aim for 9.
Again, I will not.
I know. I know I can't get the complexity point because I tried that the first time. I didn't get it. I was like, yo, I'm good off the complexity point.
The complexity
But-
point is very, very difficult to get, and it takes a lot of time, energy, and thought to go and really make a really good complexity point. Honestly, it's such a rarity to see at the AP reading that it's, yeah.
Oh, and document 2 have no picture.
Yeah, I noticed that too, and I asked Tassinari about it, and he has not gotten back to me. So we will see what he has to say. I'm trying to force him to admit that he screwed up.
Because I was lost. I'm looking like, oh.
Yeah, I know. I just saw that right before I started. So I pulled up the documents, and I'm like, document 2 isn't here. I wonder if it's only here for me right now. So, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
We have another person.
You live?
Oh, all right.
Okay, Mac. How was going out inside the outside world?
Oh, it was peachy keen. Nearly broke into, nearly had a full emotional breakdown in Costco. So that was fun. Yeah.
Layla, oh my gosh.
What?
I texted you.
Right now?
Yes, right now.
Oh, I know. I saw.
Oh.
I know you joined.
Anyways, Mac, I think before we start, there's something I need to show you. Look. So, I wasted... Well, I didn't look at the ratings, but I got a Danny DeVito cutout. You know how I told you how I got a Danny DeVito cutout? Yeah, this is him.
Wow, that's really small.
It is. And I didn't think
it's
it
probably
was
life size.
Life size to me.
Well, life size Danny DeVito. That dude's tiny, apparently.
So is Layla.
Okay, context, Mac. I'm very confused. I used your prompt as my question for my TRF.
Uh-huh.
And I found out that
the era of good feelings or what?
I'm confused on it all. I know national identity. We got a sense of it after like the War of 1812, right? Because
right.
That's what I learned in the TRF. But so it's basically we use the documents to see how like we got a sense of national identity during the era of good feelings.
Yeah.
Okay.
What brought us together?
So context would be the War of 1812, right?
The War of 1812 and the foundation of the country as well. So if you're thinking about it from kind of a 50-year time span before the question, we're looking at kind of how the country got started, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we weren't always united together. We didn't always see eye to eye, and there was a lot of fighting that took place. During the writing of the Constitution, there was big states versus little states. There were slave states versus free states. There were wealthy states versus the poor states. There were all kinds of fighting and arguments going on during that time period. Mm-hmm. And it kept going all the way up until the War of 1812, because you had the Federalists versus the Anti-Federalists. Then you had the rise of the Democratic Republicans and the Federalists opposing them. You had all these different groups fighting with one another. And you have to kind of, I don't want to say put them into order like that, but you have to think about it of there was a lot of fighting. And then after the War of 1812, there just wasn't any fighting.
Okay. And then they became one.
They began the process of unifying together.
And then that's the prompt.
Yes.
Began unifying as one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Wait, so begin unifying as one. What is that?
Well, that's national the question. Identity. The question is the
national identity.
Okay, everyone's joining out of nowhere. What?
We want to learn too.
I just figured everybody wanted to have a tour of everyone's ceiling.
This was like more harder for me. I didn't know anything about it.
There we go.
No.
Oh, never mind.
Come back.
And Layla.
And a lovely ceiling fan you have.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, so how would I form the thesis? Because I looked at the documents and I looked like kind of did the crash courses or whatever.
Mhm.
But would I say like they gained their national identity like through
What would be the
political
category?
reasons or
Okay, so remember when we talk about building a thesis, we're looking to state an argument and start the organization of your essay.
Mhm.
Now, the easiest way to do that is to say there are political, social, and economic reasons.
right?
However, by saying that, you don't get the thesis points because that's not specific enough. You're not addressing the question, you're just making a blanket statement. Social, political, and economic reasons. That doesn't get the thesis point. You have to tailor make them for the prompt. So what were political reasons that brought the country together?
They
What were
started
social
becoming
reasons
stronger.
that brought people together during this time? And what are economic reasons that brought people together and made the United States the United States?
Mm-mm.
So for
Okay.
political, would we talk about like the different Democratic and Republicans better?
Is that a chicken?
Yeah.
You could theoretically you could talk about the dissolving of the Federalists, but that's not really happening during this time period, right? That already happened. That's why this is the era of good feelings, is because there wasn't a second political party to fight with.
Okay, so we have to find what gives them national identity during the era of good feelings.
Right,
I see
because
the president.
you're arguing about the growth of the era of good feelings or national identity, not we already were.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Can
So
Thomas Jefferson's want of having a large country that's not based off of European industrialism, would that like basically saying like because he wanted a stronger country that's what kind of gave them their national identity in becoming who they are?
kind of, because it was not only just that, it was also the group of people who wanted that industrialization, because during this time we see a huge growth in the economy of the United States due in large fact to industrialism and the beginnings of industrialization in the Northeast and along the coasts. Okay, so we see a large group of people making a lot of money, and we also see them building things to reach out to get the natural resources to those factories. Okay,
And now we'll go under economic.
that would be an economic reason, exactly. So
But
now
how
you
would
can
you
talk
say
about all of those inventions, the cotton gin, the factory system, canals, steamboats. I mean, be specific, but those are all things that are going to tie the country together
So we could say
economically.
during the era of good feelings, the country gained more national identity through economic, but we can't say economic, right?
Yeah, you have to be more specific.
Through the growth in economic, I don't know.
You're overthinking it, right? So think about this.
Don't overthink.
Yeah, it's easy to overthink, but we're trying hard not to, right? So in this case, we're talking about what is happening to the country's economy. What are
We're
we doing?
growing.
It's growing.
We're buying
Because
land.
of what?
Purchase.
Invention?
Be more broad.
We're buying land.
That's growing the size of the physical country.
Okay.
Through
What's growing the economy?
population? No.
Industrialization.
Trade.
Industrialization.
Oh.
Okay.
And then that's when we use.
Industrialization is growing the economy and tying the West to the North and the South to the North and tying those things together and creating a national economy, right?
Mhm.
Because the cotton growers in the South are depending upon the machinery like the cotton gin and then shipping that cotton up to the North, who are then making it into blankets to sell around the world.
But which document would that go with? It doesn't.
Document 5, right? No, wait. No. Document.
Give
I've
you all
seen it
four.
before. 3? Document 3, where they talk about like opening a national bank possibly, and then
Like the.
kind of. I mean, that's the only document I've seen that like kind of focus on.
I'm really hoping that document 2, by the way, is that blank for everybody or is that just me?
It's
No,
blank for
there's a
everybody.
picture. It's
Isn't
at the bottom.
Isn't the picture?
It's blank for everyone.
No, it's at the bottom. If you keep scrolling.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's outside the box.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Okay, so that's not, that makes more sense. Got it. So, okay, Philadelphia Square.
Where? You,
It's if you scroll past it, it's a picture on the third page. Yeah, third page. That's document 2. That picture. Anyway,
So what would go best with economic?
but here's the thing: do you have to have a document for each of your sections?
No.
No.
Be outside information.
It can be,
Oh. And then all that about the inventions is all outside information.
Exactly, because do you see cotton gin anywhere in any of these documents?
no.
But did that help to unify the country and form Americans into who they are? Yeah.
So financially, this is where they found their identity. Is through industrialization.
It helped to form our identity, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but okay. And then for political, would we use like document 1? Oh wait.
I put 3 in 1.
For political?
Yeah, because they're great. Like they're grateful that they're growing, but there's a fear of like them growing. So basically, like they can get too powerful where they don't have control, and that's where like a sense of government comes from. I think that's where I got out of it. Like where it says, I was about to say fearfully and growing. This is our price and danger, our weakness and our strength. We are under the most imperious obligations to counteract every tendency to disunion. So basically saying like if they have too much power, they end up not together as one, as a country, right?
as one, as a country.
But doesn't it have to be about growing national identity?
Well, but how? Okay, so we have one reason as to why we're growing or why we're becoming Americans and having a national identity. Okay, that national market economy. Okay, economic. Okay, we also said there were political and social reasons. What are the political reasons that we were nationalizing?
Because it would kind of be easier to be one.
Oh, the one social
Where
party?
people started supporting us from other countries. Maybe.
But that's when we're talking about political, we're talking about the system that we've built. Okay, do we have a functioning system at this point?
No.
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 Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, we do. It's
Yeah,
called the
we have like
Constitution.
the president, the Supreme Court systems and stuff like that.
Those things are functional. And as you can see, document number 3 is a Supreme Court decision, which helped to bring the country closer together because no longer could a state do something that went against the power of the federal government, we all had to be doing it together.
So decisions have to be made together, which forms a national identity. Okay.
And we're all in this together because of the Constitution. The president, the Congress, the Supreme Court, those are three political bodies
Which
that
means
help
they work
unify them together.
Okay.
Dang it. Can't really tell. I got a gigantor rash on the back of my hand. Stupid.
Corona.
No, it's just washing my hands constantly.
Document 2 would be social because they're celebrating the independence, which is like a national pride.
Yeah, that definitely could be a part of a social argument.
Mhm.
Okay. What also brought people together? I mean, besides just a sense of national pride.
Jobs? No.
So that's economic. Social would be like you come together and you're doing it because you want to do it, not because you're being paid to do it.
A protest?
That's more political because you're trying to change the system that you're under, right?
So that's not like a big gathering where like you're trying to change something that's going on, just like the Bacon's Rebellion.
Well, hold on. It's not Bacon's Rebellion. Bacon's Rebellion is a rebellion.
Yeah,
Do
but
people look upset by anything?
I'm using the rebellion as an example, as of like a gathering.
Well, but that's a political thing because they're trying to change things. If you're looking at document 2, are these people upset and do they look like they're angry at the government and want to change things?
No, they're celebrating Independence Day. So
They look like they're having fun.
They're perfectly happy with this.
So freedom?
Working great. Could this be an example of the political system working?
Yeah.
Sure.
So it would be under political, not social.
Yeah, this could be a political statement that people aren't protesting the government, they're celebrating the government. They're celebrating the United States. They're going out on the 4th of July and saying, hell yes, this is a great system and we've got it good.
So there's no social stance with the document?
Not necessarily. I don't have these things memorized.
So that's political, right?
So basically, our two categories would mostly be economic and political. And these two documents are political.
From the standpoint of the document, certainly, but there is a large social, I don't want to say a social movement, but there are several social movements going on during this time period as well that are growing and growing and growing.
And that would be outside information?
That would then be outside information because we don't have documents to talk about these social movements.
Okay. But what would be an example, like one of those social gatherings?
Take a look at document 4. Okay, look at document 4. This one actually could be used for a social argument. Okay, this momentous question, like a fire bell in the night, awakened and filled me with terror. I considered it at once as the death knell of the Union. It is hushed indeed for the moment, but this is only a reprieve only, not a final sentence. A geographical line coinciding with a marked principle, moral and political, once removed and held up to the angry passions of men, will never be obliterated, and every new iteration will mark it deeper and deeper. Okay, now this is full of metaphor, and he's kind of dancing around the subject because he doesn't want to talk about it because he knows that it's going to piss people off, and he doesn't want to do that. Okay, what is he talking about? Well,
Louisiana Purchase.
Not talking about. Well, kind of. Okay, where it's 1820. Okay, it's 1820, and we're talking about a line drawn on a map. What are we talking about?
Separating the states.
Well, one state in particular, yes. And drawing a line that are going to upset people, both for and against it.
Wait, is it about like slavery, like the free states?
What's that line?
Forgot. I'm gonna search it up.
The line.
The North and the South? I don't know. I'm lost. Is it the equator? That's the line, right?
Wait, is it like the Manson-Dixon line?
It's not the Mason-Dixon line. That was already established.
Let me see.
Talking about another line that was important in 1820 because we wanted to admit a state and a chunk of the Louisiana Purchase.
Oh,
What state was it?
it was the Compromise of 1820. The
Which
Missouri,
is also sometimes referred to as
the Missouri Compromise,
Missouri Compromise.
and that's what he's talking about.
That's what they're talking about. That Fire Bell of the Nights. What is the thing that he's afraid of bringing up?
Slavery.
He's afraid of bringing up slavery. The Fire Bell of the Night is we're all going to start talking about slavery because of this. And Jefferson worked really, really hard at making it so that we didn't talk about slavery. Okay?
He's a hypocrite.
Almost definitely, but that's not the point, right?
You're right.
The point is that he's talking about slavery and the issues that are going to come up about slavery. This is the social part because abolitionism starts to come together during this time period, along with a lot of other ideas socially about trying to bring people together. We see the growth in the abolitionist movement, the temperance movement, the utopian movements. All of that social reform of the antebellum era starts here. And we see those people starting to come to it as the Second Great Awakening happens.
It starts in
would
the
be a
era of good feelings. It starts in the era of good feelings.
Mhm.
Okay.
Because now we're not fighting over how the government should work. Now we can try to fix people, educate them, stop sending them to, horrible prisons, stop sending insane people to prison because they can't help it. Let's try to help these people. All of these social movements come out of this as well, and people start building on that.
So it just this
Would that be
proves
outside?
that they found like a national identity because now they're trying to work on themselves.
Exactly. Is that outside information?
Or it's because he's kind of talking about it.
Yes and no. He doesn't mention it by name. You really actually have to know that that's what Jefferson is talking about in document 4. Okay? It isn't something that you're just going to be able to say, oh yeah, he's talking about slavery. Everybody knows that. No, not everybody does. There are going to be people who on the AP test will look at document 4 and actually think he's talking about a fire bell in the night and Monticello burning down.
How am I supposed to take this AP test without you?
You just come to my house real quick, talk me through it.
Yeah.
Pay me.
No. Social distance.
No.
But the fact is that not knowing what document 4 is talking about, guess what? You don't have to.
You only need to use 2.
You only need 2 documents. So if you talk about documents 1 and 2 because you really understand documents 1 and 2, you get 2 points.
So do you recommend us talking because you know how we're only going to have 4 documents, right?
5.
5, okay. So do you recommend us just going with 2 off the bat and just sticking to that, or do we do 3 or 4?
If you're not sure about a document's use,
use all of them?
Try to use another document. If you got one down and you're pretty sure you got that one and you're interpreting it correctly, great. But if you're sketchy on a second and sketchy on a third, put both of them in there just in case you mess up one of the two.
Okay.
But if you know that you're definitely interpreting this document and this document correctly, then don't sit there and try to squeeze another one in there because there's no point in it. It's not going to get you another point. You'd have to do a fourth document, and then you're just spending a lot of time. Yeah, you're spending a lot of time on a point that you may or may not get.
Okay, so far from my thesis, I have national identity grew significantly during the era of good feelings through growing industrialism, and for the political part, would I say, because I know 3 and 2 are political, but how would I use something to combine them?
Well, remember, what are we excited about? Well, we had a sense of national pride. What is that national pride based on? Well, a lot of it was based on the fact that we had a functional government that didn't suck. Remember, after the Revolutionary War, we had the Articles of Confederation, and they totally sucked. They were awful. With the Constitution, it didn't. Things were great. Things were picking up. Things were good politically. Okay? So we have that sense of national identity coming out of a functional political system and government.
Okay.
Wait, I have a question. Because Layla, she included kind of outside evidence. We're able to do that in our thesis.
Well, she's not using specific pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, she's setting up the categories, and she said growing industrialization led to national unity. Okay, now prove that to me. And a growing pride in our national institutions.
Okay.
National unity. Okay, now prove that to me. And that's what the outside information is. It's the evidence.
Okay.
That
you're using.
So with the thesis, do you only need 2 things to prove, or do you need to put 3 categories in there?
It's not a matter of needing. It's a matter of what you're good at. Say, for example, you don't even think about the reform movements and you can't think of anything social. Should you try and force it? No. Give me 2 reasons, and that's good. Okay? Your thesis should have those categories, though. At least 2, maybe 3. 4 is starting to push it. 5, holy crap. Just stop. You're doing too much. All right. 2 or 3 things. We're good.
And so for the political side, the Constitution would be outside evidence because none of the documents are talking about it.
Well, the Constitution, yeah, I mean, it would be kind of outside information, but you can't just say, and the Constitution.
Yeah.
About what? So what? Well, the Constitution was written, and people were proud of the functioning system that we got. And you can show that in document 2. Then it's not really outside information anymore, except it is proving that document 2 is showing that national unity.
So what is the thesis actually asking us? Because it says evaluate the extent of changes in the perception of national identity. So is it asking us to before we had this and now we have that, and this is how people see their national identity? Or are we trying to say that this and that, that caused national identity in the country?
There's the way the College Board writes these questions is they always kind of make them very open-ended, right? So in this case, could you make the argument that we saw a growth in national unity? Yes. Could you also make the argument that we saw no growth in national unity? Sure, you could. But for this one, you need to show me, okay, how much or little our national identity grew.
Oh, So you only need 2 documents to get 8 points, right?
Yes.
All right, cool.
Wait, so are we comparing it? So say we list the
No,
document and say
it's not a compare and contrast question. It's a continuity and change over time. How did we see a change over time of this? Well, start here, and through these things, we got to here.
Okay, I get it. It's not like a before and after. It's more like what caused it.
No, because there isn't a set point where suddenly we're changed. It's you see that gradual shift of people, because the people in the Northeast, they were Federalists before the War of 1812, right? And then after the War of 1812, why did they abandon federalism? Well, because after the war was over, things were going pretty good. And those Democratic Republicans seem to be doing things pretty well. So I guess we should probably vote for them. And federalism just kind of disintegrated because they started focusing their time on building their factories and making money. And we don't have that anymore. The Federalist Party. We still have federalism, kind of.
Federalist Party. They focused on making money and factories.
I feel so much more, what's the word? More happy over this DBQ now because I feel like I'm past.
It like I said, the challenging part to this DBQ is going to be having everything at your fingertips inside your head when you're writing this question. Reviewing is going to be key to getting a good score on this. If you're not doing any review, you're going to struggle with this no matter what the question is, unless you happen to know something great about that particular time period. So that's going to be the challenge for everybody.
So we're taking the AP test at home, right? Or are we like come to the school?
No, you're doing it at home.
All right, cool. I was asking.
So you're gonna need stable internet for 45 minutes. You're gonna basically download the question, and then you have 45 minutes to write the question, write out your essay, and then you have 5 minutes to upload it.
Where do we go to get the question on the day?
That I don't know. I don't know if College Board knows that. I have no idea. So it's yeah.
So if it takes longer to download the question for other for different people, would that mess up the time?
Yes. Which is why Tasneri posted something that I think I added to you guys, basically saying for 45 minutes, get everybody off the internet. No streaming, no, just everybody stay the hell off the internet. I'm trying to pass an AP test.
That's gonna be difficult because my mom got she working from home and she ain't gonna do that. So
you do the best that you can, but if you can get isolated internet for that 45 minutes, it can definitely have an effect on being able to pass.
I'm gonna kick out everyone.
So you can tell her that because she ain't finna listen. She ain't. No, that's not. So,
you do what you can, okay? As long I can't imagine working from home is eating up that much bandwidth. But if your little brother or sister is watching Disney Plus, and then your other brother or sister is watching YouTube, and then there's another brother or sister watching Netflix while your parents are watching Hulu, that's going to slow down your internet. It's probably not going to be that great. But
yeah, my family is just all on the internet
because there's nothing else to do. I can't blame them.
Okay, I got it. Check me out. Through industrialization, a good a good government system, and I want to improve their own country. National identity began to form during the era of good feelings from 1815 to 1825.
Well, I mean, it doesn't mention it does. Never mind. I was going to say it doesn't mention a time period, but it does. But yeah, that works.
That sounds good.
Wait, your thesis have to mention the time period?
No. You can say that during the era of good feelings. I as the reader, I know what the era of what the time period is. I don't need you to parrot it back to me. It doesn't have to have that in there, but it doesn't hurt.
See, I don't want that attitude when you read in my paper. Imagine like somebody's just like so unnecessary. Making you.
Believe me, I have read so many essays at the AP readings that are just like, here's a bunch of extra crap that you don't need. And it's like, guys, I've already given you the point. You don't need any more. Here's more. I don't need any more. Stop it. Just
all right, I'm gonna look out the date.
Oh yeah. Mr. McFadden. So does College Board give you like an exact time that they're gonna send you this? Like, do they like email you?
They should be emailing you guys information about when the AP tests are going to happen.
I know when I'm going to
waiting on it to get that information out when they have it all solidified. Because I know
the day I'm taking it. I don't know like the exact time, so I can't like, oh, y'all can't be on Wi-Fi for the whole day. Like I don't know the time.
I don't know off the top of my head. I'm sure they've got that out there. I'm sure they've got that out there, but I don't know what it is.
Okay, Mac, I have a question. What is a 6 out of 10? Because I got a 6 out of 10 for last week.
I don't know.
It's not a 10 points.
Yeah.
Yes, the DBQ is out of 10 points.
This is ghetto.
Wait, Mac, you gave me a 6 out of 10, and you don't know what that is?
It's not bad. It's not great. I think an 8 would probably. I think an 8 is going to be a 95. A 7 would be 85, and a 6 would probably be 80.
So when do you put in grades?
I don't know. Eventually, when I get bored enough to do it.
I'm still missing an SAQ and multiple choice from when we were at school.
Ooh, she pressing.
You played me.
She pressing you, McFadden.
You played me. I thought I got a good score, and you telling me it's not a 10 points. I just want to cry. I thought I was.
What did you get, Cyan?
I got a 4. I'm thinking, that's great.
Well, when it was at a 7, yes, 4 would be great.
That's what I was thinking.
So the 10 points. The 10 points are, for those of you who haven't gotten this yet, contextualization gets you a point. Thesis gets you a point. Using 2 documents gives you a point. Substantiating your argument with those 2 documents gets you a point. Using 4 documents to substantiate your argument gets you a point. Thea-ing gets you a point. Thea-ing again gets you another point. Outside information and using it to substantiate your argument gets you another point. Outside information gets you another point. Complexity gets you 10.
I need help with the FIA part. Do you
I
still
usually
have
just do purple.
The worksheet that you handed us?
What about it?
Like, because do you remember you gave us like the FIA kind of like outline? Do you still have that?
Oh, yeah.
Can you post it on Google Classroom?
Yeah, can you post it? Because I was looking for it, but then
I'll see if I can. I
just grab it.
somewhere. I have to find it.
Okay.
Just look it up online, FIA.
I tried. No, the way Mr. McFadden had, he actually had like the sentence starter, and then you fill in the blank. Like I wanted that.
If I can find that, I'll see if I can find that. If only I had a pen. Yeah, I'll see if I can find that and post it to the classroom. But yeah, basically, after you explain your documents, put in the purpose. The purpose of this document was to, do something, and it's shown by doing this.
McFadden.
Huh?
So for complexity, could we use the civil rights movement again?
You can always use the civil rights movement.
How would we?
Is that you have to try to find a way of making it fit, and that's why I'm not recommending that people actually sit down and do the complexity, because it's unless you really know stuff,
No, it's true.
Pretty
I
hard.
don't.
Okay.
Yeah. And most people don't. Again, it's 10% of the people who take the AP test get the complexity point. It's just really rare.
Okay. And then, so for context, we would just talk about how before the system we had wasn't that great, and then now everybody loves it, basically.
And the word.
Well, how we were not unified together, and then once we got to that point, once we had this unity, we were, that then.
I was gonna put how we were fighting the British, and then even though we won the war, people still didn't like support us as far as like thinking that we were like a stable country, and they thought that we weren't going to make it. And
yeah, you could talk about the I don't want to say the fighting, but the disagreements that we had together as Americans. You had the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists. You had the North and the South. You had the big states, the little states, the rich, the poor. All of these people were disagreeing with one another. After the War of 1812, that suddenly just kind of goes away, and we're not disagreeing with one another. We're working together. The era of good feelings brought about feelings of national unity because of growth of industrialization,
want to improve themselves
pride in the national government, and a growth of social reforms trying to help people out. That's a contextualization of the thesis right there.
Okay, Mac. Thank you, because usually when I read the prompt, I'm like, what the heck is this man assigning? But then I tell you, you just
All right,
make it
hey,
sound
y'all.
easy.
Head out, okay, Mr. McFadden?
Okay.
All right, see you.
Thank you, Mac. Happy quarantine. Life is crazy. I started scrapbooking. Literally, I started scrapbooking.
Scrapbooking when you have nothing to scrapbook because you're at home.
Well, I have magazines in the garage, so I've been cutting stuff out, and then I'm gonna start scrapbooking.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I've been talking to my chicken.
Pamela, I miss you.
You're crazy.
I miss you too. No, yesterday I for real had a heart attack though, because I went outside to feed her and I did not find her anywhere. And then I looked inside her chicken coop and she was laying down on her eggs.
Oh.
Yeah, it was cute, but I was scared. I didn't find her.
Yeah, I was sitting on my daughter the other day and kept trying to kick me. I'm like, what? I'm keeping you warm.
So far during quarantine, it's been a roller coaster.
Yep.
To say the least.
Everybody in America has a dog, a cat. Pamela, I got chickens.
I got chicken.
I have a fake chicken. I have a fake chicken.
Layla, tell me why my chicken looks exactly like that.
It's life size. So
When I saw you and like you had a chicken on your lap, I was like, no way. There's no way that's a real chicken.
All right, thank you. My mom is calling me. She came home with groceries.
Couldn't relate.
Bye, Mac.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Okay, for context, I'm still on this. You know how we were supposed to like kind of state how it was politically, socially, and economically. So for political, we can put that the U.S. wasn't unified because there were different groups such as the Federalists and the Republicans and stuff, like how you stated. And then socially, what would be like?
Well, you don't have to, for the contextualization, you don't have to worry about social, political, and economic. That's just a thesis setup.
Yeah.
That's just in your thesis. If you're talking about how there were groups that were disagreeing with one another prior to the era of good feelings, that's contextualization. The rich and the poor, the big and the small, the slave owners and the non-slave owners.
So that's just the overall identity of
And that's what contextualization is doing. It's giving you the overall picture, and then you're going to talk about your argument. That's what contextualization is all about.
Okay.
You know how for the last DBQ, you like there's a tally sheet that tells us what we got.
Mm-hmm.
Mine's blank. So when you told me to check what I missed, I didn't have anything.
Okay, hold on.
They're usually in like the comments on the side.
I know mine was blank and Michaela's was blank because I asked her.
No, I try it again.
Huh?
Look at the tally sheet.
Okay. Hold on, it's loading. Okay, I'm here. I see it. I see it.
Okay. Now, I just clicked on all of them to check them off, but I put those all in there.
Okay.
That's if you're looking at the tally sheet, that's where the thing is.
What the heck? When I checked it, it wasn't there.
I just did it. Like I literally just said check because I figured they were already there as a thing. So I didn't think I had to put check.
Okay.
Now I know.
I really hate myself.
I think I don't know. When I saw I got a 7, I was actually pretty proud of myself.
This is a very doable DBQ, and this format of the DBQ is really, really doable.
Yeah.
Why did I get a 4?
To do everything.
Why did I get a 4?
Well, let's see.
Mr. McFadden, I was so confident with this essay. I was like, yeah, I know a little bit about slavery. I can write this. I went to tutoring, everything. I get a 4.
Okay. So if you're looking at your tally sheet, you had a thesis, you had contextualization, you used 2 documents, you substantiated your argument using those 2 documents. I did not see outside information or outside evidence, so you didn't get those 2 points, and you didn't see it.
Oh yeah, I know I for sure didn't see it.
So
okay.
2 4 points. That's where you missed those 4 points. Everything else was fine. You just needed outside evidence and FIA.
I'm trying to look for the essay. And you said, I noticed that you put something in the comments, but you said to type it now.
Yes, please.
Okay. Bye, guys. I have to go take an exam for anatomy.
Have fun.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
All right, man. Finally.
Cannot find it.
We need to get down to business. I know you just did like an hour of saying things, but you know, I did not understand a single thing you said, and everyone was talking. So now that it's less people, let's get down to business.
I'm real.
You know I'm recording this, and I'm going to put it on the thing, and you can rewatch it, and then you can go real slow.
No, Mac, I was thinking about that. I was like, I could watch this, but then I was like, no. What if I have a question? It's just not the same.
Then you email, and I get back
But
to you.
it's not the same because then I gotta read it, and I'm like, oh my god. Yeah, me too.
Wait, okay, so for outside evidence, I compared it to Cubans who slaughtered anyone who looked like they were Europeans or any like European descent. And no matter like if they were native to the country or not, like they killed them because they grew tired of being treated inhumane.
Yeah. I don't know how that ties to growth of abolitionism.
Like it shows like the uprising, like they got tired of the unfair treatment, so they're just like
asking about. This would be more along the lines of growing a movement.
Also, it would have to be like a movement based in Cuba, kind of like that would.
Why Cuba?
Because they were treated like slaves too, right? I got this from Twitter. I ain't gonna put them on blast, but
yeah, I was just really confused by that. I was like, okay, that's not no.
Okay.
Think about it. If you're an easier connection to make would be the civil rights movement of the 1950s. We see in the 1940s a growth of the idea of the equality of the races, and then that expands to include more and more and more and more groups, not just African Americans, but also Latino and gay and lesbians and all these different groups. But they all start with this opening of civil rights in the 1940s and 50s. We didn't really get to the civil rights movement, which is why it would be difficult for anybody to know about it. But it was just kind of like that's the kind of movement that we're talking about, and that would be a better complexity to go with.
Oh, so we can use it like in the same area. Let me put it like that, like location wise, but it can't be in the same time period.
Theoretically, yeah. It's supposed to be in a different time period, but it can also be in the same time period in a different region.
Okay.
But for this question, it works better if you're tying it to another time period.
Right. And then is the grandfather clause considered a source of outside evidence?
No, because grandfather clauses wouldn't come about until after the Civil War, when people got the right to vote and they had it taken away. So that might be complexity, but it depends on how you're using it. If you're using it as this is proving that we see a growth of abolitionism, grandfather clause doesn't show that.
Okay. Well, thank you. Because I was like, I was confused. Appreciate it.
We're here to learn. That's why we're here.
All right. Well, I'm going to go now and cry myself to sleep because I played myself. But good luck dealing with Alexa.
Let's start. Where do we start? Okay. All right. How's your day going?
In about 20 minutes, it'll be a lot better because I have to be done in 20 minutes.
Okay. Well, you can be done in an hour. Okay.
No.
Yes.
I have a hard out at 4 o'clock. I've got schoolwork I got to get done.
What schoolwork?
I have to make dinner. I have a daughter I'd rather spend time with.
Wow, you cook? That's so interesting. But not for me. Now let's get down to business. What is the context?
It's
hold on. I wrote it down. Hold on. All right. We weren't united, right?
Not very much. I mean, we were united in name, but that's about it.
So that's the context. We weren't united.
But you need to be more specific. How were we not united? What are some examples of our
big state versus little state, rich versus poor?
Okay.
North versus south. So that's basically the context, right? Or that is the context?
Yeah, that would be the context.
Okay. With some outside evidence, I was confused when you guys were talking about Thomas Jefferson and all that. I was like, what?
What?
Outside evidence.
Well, you need to give me an example of how something brought about national unity. When you're talking about this, outside evidence is anything that's not in the documents themselves. So, for example, if you're talking about industrialization leading to a growth of national unity, what's an example of that?
The cotton growers were depending on the machine.
Okay, and what's the name of that machine?
I don't know. What was it?
Oh, for God's sakes. Seriously?
That's all I got. I didn't get the name. You know you should be drinking water, not soda.
This is water, but it's got carbonation in it. It's not, I'm not drinking like Coke. It's just carbonated water.
That's not healthy.
The hell it's not.
Anyways, okay, what was the name of the machine?
Well, it has to do with cotton.
I'm waiting.
And it's an engine.
Cotton engine?
Shorten that up.
I'm waiting.
Yeah, I am too.
A cotton machine? I don't know.
No, it's not a cotton machine. It's a cotton engine.
That, what you just said, is a name.
That's not what it's typically known as.
What is it known for?
It's for combing cotton. You know, there's a one person that got to this point of the video and they're screaming at the screen right now.
And they can comment on it and be like, you idiot. Why can't you just say it?
Because then I'm doing the work and you're not.
No, I don't know a machine.
It's not a machine.
You said it was.
Well, yes. They didn't call it a machine, though. They called it an engine. A cotton engine.
I don't know.
Oh God!
God, I'm turning you crazy. That's horrible.
No, I'm imagining the people who are their heads are exploding with rage that you're not getting the massive hint.
I'm trying to figure it out. What is it called?
It is a cotton engine.
A cotton engine?
Shorten that.
An engine.
No. You need the cotton part.
Cotton. Oh my.
The veins are popping out on this person's head. I could just imagine it. Ah!
We're running out of time here.
I know, right?
Oh my. Is the little kid there? Because maybe she'll tell me.
She very well could.
Mm-hmm. Why can't you just tell me?
Because then I'm doing the work and not you.
No, you're not. You're just helping me.
No, I'm not helping you. I'm doing the work.
No, you're not. Okay.
We had something that we could look things up on. Like a internet of information.
Yeah. Okay. I'm dyslexic, so can't how oh. Cotton gin?
Oh my God! It's the cotton engine. Yeah, the cotton gin.
What? Okay, hold on. You. God. Anyways, keep going.
So, the cotton gin. Okay, how did that lead to unity and national identity.
Because people relied on that, or yeah.
So
No.
people rely on lots of things. Why is the cotton gin bringing people together?
So people can spend time with their
I'm trying
family.
to help.
Your kid is something else. You know what? That kid.
This car?
You want to see the Simpsons card?
We don't have a kid. We don't have a kid inside.
No, there's nobody inside.
No kid.
Nope, no kids.
No babies.
No babies.
No baby inside in a car.
Yep.
Jeez. Oh my gosh. I can't believe this.
Neither can I.
Well, okay. What? So did the cotton gin help the unity? I don't know, McFadden.
That's because you have to think. So think about this. What were they using the cotton gin to do?
Separate cotton fibers.
Okay. What were we doing with the cotton then?
Separating the cotton or the cotton fibers.
After you've done that, now you've got cotton. What do you do with it?
Make blankets.
Okay. Was the people growing the cotton making the blankets?
No.
Who was?
White people? I don't know. Go
Okay.
ahead, breathe.
Who was growing the cotton?
The slaves.
What area of the country was growing the cotton?
The north, right? South.
The South. Okay. Who was making the blankets that they were after they bought the cotton?
The north.
Huh?
The north.
Okay. So the North was buying the cotton.
Mm-hmm.
Why were we buying the cotton from the South? Why was the North buying it from the South?
Because they had cotton.
So did India. So did Egypt. Why were we buying it from them?
Because we wanted. See, I have it in my mind, but it's just hard to explain it. We wanted to come together, right?
Like we were unified as a nation?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
What was that again? The context?
Don't think of context. We're not in context anymore.
Okay, that's okay. Yeah, that's the thesis. What could be my thesis?
What are some examples that show us a growth of national unity?
Cotton.
Think more broadly than that.
I wrote this down. Hold on. Celebrating? No. Having fun, celebrating. That's wait, no, that's political. See. We were helping the economy?
Okay, so there are economic reasons.
Uh-huh.
What are those economic reasons? Be more specific.
The cotton, yes. Yeah. Right.
That is very, very specific. And I don't want to be very, very specific. I just need you to be more specific than economic reasons. What is the major economic driving force that unified Americans during this time period?
I don't know. Don't give me that look. Come on.
Again, You're making somebody's head explode right now.
You're making
Because
my
not
head
only did we
explode.
talk about it over the last 2 hours.
1 hour.
Well, I started this at about 2 o'clock, and it's almost 4. So last 2 hours.
Anyways. So.
What is driving the economy of this time period in American history?
Oh, the government, the Constitution?
No, that's not driving the economy.
The Supreme Court?
Again, part of the government, not part of the economy.
The people?
Nope.
Oh my gosh! Slavery?
No, that's a part of the economy, but it's
Could
not
you give me a
driving the
hint?
economy.
A hint.
Okay, the cotton gin and those factories.
Oh, the industrial. That I can't industrialization.
Industrialization was driving the economy during this time period and unifying Americans together. That becomes a category, industrializing the United States. Okay, so that's one part of your thesis. What's another thing that grew national unity? So you have an economic reason.
Political.
Okay.
And social.
Okay, those are 2 other categories that you could create, but you can't just say
so I got the
political
part,
and social reason.
I never got the social part.
Okay.
Because you said protests weren't it, so.
Right, because people weren't protesting. This is
And
the era of good
fun
feelings.
was political, or celebrating and going out was political.
Well, celebrating the government was political, yes. And that's what those people are doing. They're celebrating our independence.
So what's social?
Social are, how did groups of people come together? And there is a very large social coming together during this time period.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Could you possibly give me another hint?
When you think of things in a social context, you're thinking of things like culture or religious beliefs or things that people do because they want to do them and they're not getting paid for them, or they don't have to do them because it's not running things. Okay.
Church?
Okay. What religious movement was kind of getting it started this time that may have had a large social impact on the United States?
Christianity?
That wasn't getting started at this time. That had been around for about 1,800 years.
Catholic?
Again, been around for about 1,800 years.
I don't even know. I don't know. I don't know my religions or religious.
It's not about a specific religion. It's a religious movement that took place during this time period.
Mac, I don't know what happened during this time. Yeah, don't give that face. You look. Wow.
Look it up.
Oh, you should have said that. During what time?
1850 to 1825, or 1815 to 1825, the era of good feelings.
Anti-federalist?
That's not a religious movement.
I don't. Decembrist? I don't even.
How is it that I can put in a search and it's the first thing that comes up?
Because you're a history teacher.
No, that can't be it.
Yeah, I think that's it. What is it? Is it on?
It's a religious movement of the early 1800s.
Reform women? I don't know.
Well, those are part of this religious movement. Yes.
Jesus. So, what is the main one?
Isn't that the $10,000 question?
Yeah. I keep searching and what did you put?
Religious movement of the early 1800s.
I hate it here. Of the
early 1800s.
The Great Awakening.
Which one?
The second one.
There you go.
Oh
so
my
that
God.
Second Great Awakening is a religious movement which led to those reform movements: women's rights, abolitionism, temperance, treating prisoners better, treating the mentally ill better, educating people. All of those things come out of that Second Great Awakening, and that is the social movement that we're talking about that helped to unify people together.
All right. Okay. What else am I with? Complexity. So I don't want to use.
Don't worry about complexity. Just
Why?
skip it. Skip it.
Because I got 4 points on my last DBQ and I could have sworn I felt really confident about it, and you're gonna tell me it was a 4. I thought it was like a 5, maybe a 6. A 5.
Well, anyway, don't worry about the complexity. Just skip it.
Wait, can you at least tell me what I did wrong in my last DBQ, and then I'll just leave, and then Oh my God, is that?
I don't have any chips, ZJ.
Popcorn?
I don't have any popcorn, ZJ.
I want popcorn.
ZJ, I can't do that right now.
I want.
ZJ, give me a minute, okay? Daddy's trying to help somebody, okay?
Yes.
Go back to playing your game. Do you need a diaper change?
No.
You sure? No. Okay.
That's one child you got there.
Let's see here.
I hope that child ends up being as cool as me.
There you are. Tally sheet. Okay. One of the points that you did not get was thesis.
What?
Yeah,
I got thesis.
you did not.
Yes, I did. I could have
No,
sworn.
you didn't. You did not.
Mm-hmm. What else? What else didn't I get?
Let's see. You got contextualization.
Let's go.
You used 2 documents,
Let's go.
but you didn't substantiate your argument because you didn't have one with those 2 documents. You had 1 piece of outside information. You didn't have a second, and you didn't FIA the second document.
Oh my. You know what? Doesn't even matter. Why? Because,
The main thing that kind of kept you from getting the thesis point, and the reason that you didn't get it, was because you said that Vermont was the first state to get slaves.
that wasn't my thesis.
And yet you based a lot of your argument around that idea. No. Vermont was the first state to get rid of slavery.
No, I thought
Not
you said
yet
it was the
slaves.
first state to have.
No.
Dang.
The map shows, if you look at the map, that emancipation in the North starts with that by state constitution, which means emancipating the slaves, getting rid of slavery, not saying, yeah, we're going to have slaves. That's the opposite of that.
Okay.
So that's the main reason.
Fine. You know what? Just know that this document will be good. No, it won't. But it'll be great. You'll be like, wow, I really thought she was stupid. And then you're going to be like, yeah, she was, you know?
Uh-huh.
Well, I'm going to get going now. I hope your child there is enjoying her little poopy diaper. Have you heard of that band? It's from Roger, or Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Totally recommend it. Anyways, bye, McFadden.
Okay.
But
Oh, God. Okay. So, to go over this again, for everybody who made it this far in the video, which is probably going to be nobody, but we'll see. Contextualization in this is the period before the era of good feelings. So go before the War of 1812. You could even go into the War of 1812 and talk about how the Federalists were actually talking about seceding from the Union, which is one of the reasons why they disappeared, is because they looked like jerks. Okay, so the people fighting with one another or disagreeing with one another suddenly just kind of goes away and everybody kind of starts unifying. Okay, the thesis is about unifying the country together and showing that national spirit. So you have the national economy, okay, created by industrialization. You have a national government, which is functional, as opposed to the Articles of Confederation, which was not. You have a growing social movement, abolitionism, the social reforms of the Second Great Awakening. That's basically showing the growth of that, okay? Then you have to find the documents and go over each of the documents and try to figure out where these things match. Most of these documents are going to be political in nature, but you can start using some of the documents to kind of show a change in that. For example, we went over document 4. Okay, so I don't know when that was. I could start figuring out how to use YouTube, but I don't want to. So anyway, you can find it. So find a way of being able to interpret those documents to fit into your categories. Tell me about the document. Summarize the information that you're using. Say something about it and how it links back to industrialization, a strong federal government, and social reforms. And then tie it to the thesis and show me how that document does that. And that will get you all the points in the world. And for God's sakes, don't worry about complexity. Okay? Don't worry about complexity.